Richard Goldberg is a senior advisor for the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Christian Whiten is a senior advisor in the Trump administration. Good to see you both. Christian, it's a terrible mistake. Obviously, it's a tragedy. We understand that. Where are the condemnations for the terror group that works every single day to make sure things like this continue to happen?
Well, you got that right. I mean, where is the outrage? You're seeing these people grandstand about something that was an accident, and the Israeli government has said it was an accident. They've apologized. They're investigating it. If Hamas killed civilians, and Hamas does kill civilians, including American civilians, would they apologize? Would they conduct an investigation? Would they hold themselves to be accountable? Would they tell their military they made a mistake and better try not to do it again? It's just this double standard throughout this entire process. It seems to get worse every month as the Democrats get more and more desperate to win Muslim votes in Michigan and Arizona, and it's just getting kind of gross.
Yeah, it certainly is. Richard, your response?
I think that's exactly right. I mean, we are watching what a democracy does when you have a military that holds itself to the law of war and to the highest ethical standards, just as the U.S. military would in a tragedy like this. You own it, you take responsibility, you launch an investigation, you find out what went wrong in the system, try to prevent it from going wrong again. Then you have to also make clear to people, why is this war going on? October 7th happened. This is a brutal terrorist organization. Embeds itself in the civilian population. It could be over tomorrow. If Sinwar wanted to give himself up, everybody wanted to surrender, release all the hostages, the war would be over. But until Hamas is destroyed in Gaza, Israel will never be safe. And of course, Iran is not just fighting on one front, it's fighting on 7 fronts. Right. So this is very important for us to not allow people to exploit a tragedy to amplify Hamas disinformation. Israel does not target civilians. Israel is a democracy, just like the United States, like Great Britain, like Australia, right. And we need to treat it as such.
Christian, you know, the president, there were comments in the New York Times earlier this week, or over the weekend, I believe, Trump had made about Israel needing to finish this fight and to get this fight over with. It was spun as though Trump was basically trying to say that, you know, that he disapproved of the way Israel was fighting the war. That is not accurate at all. I think Trump was trying to basically explain that obviously the whole of the West is turning against Israel because here in the United States, it's no longer politically fashionable to support Israel for Joe Biden if he wants to get reelected. And the optics of the war are changing, and he's trying to help them kind of get this thing done with as soon as possible. Talk to that for a second, because it does seem, you know, pretty important that they, you know, remove this cancer as fast as they can, because there is just growing condemnations for this country.
Yeah, I'd love to see just 1/10 of the enthusiasm for letting Israel do what needs to be done. 1/10 of the enthusiasm Joe Biden has for possibly having World War III with Russia and Ukraine. You know, up there, it's go, 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 let's fight, 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 send more and more, tens and tens, and nearly, because we're over $100 billion now. And yet with Israel, you know, we're waging political warfare against Israel. The CIA, when it was created, wasn't just created to spy on people. It was created to, you know, conduct political warfare. It did so pretty well against the communists in Italy and Iran. Now our government wages political warfare against our ally, Israel. You know, I think Trump is on to something, though. He's seeing that the press has been misconstruing this, has been really highlighting the damage to civilian infrastructure that's been necessary because Hamas hides among civilians. But the fastest and most humane way to end a war is to do so with overwhelming force, if you can, as quickly as possible. That's the way you end the war quickly.
Right. Richard, you had this big strike from Israel, you know, in Damascus, Syria. Iran, including the supreme leader, is now vowing revenge against Israel following that strike, killing their top IRGC, Islamic Revolutionary Guard general, this guy, Mohammad Reza Zahedi. It's the biggest hit on Iran since Trump killed Soleimani, to tell people how big it is. Iran is promising a retaliation. Obviously, Iran works through a number of different factions. What would retaliation look like?
Well, obviously, as I said, they're fighting Israel on 7 different fronts. Iran itself, obviously, militias in Iraq, militias in Syria, Hezbollah in Lebanon, elements, cells in the West Bank, Hamas in Gaza, and we've seen the Houthis in Yemen. And so this strike occurred in Syria against some of the real high-level IRGC officers planning and plotting all of these terrorist attacks against Israel on a daily basis, and, by the way, plotting terrorist attacks against the United States and our forces in the region as well. And so this is a big blow, I think, to the regime. They don't have too many options to escalate. They might continue some drone strikes against Israel that we've seen come out of the militias in Iraq. In Syria, Hezbollah will hesitate to escalate too far, not to provoke a full-scale war, in my view. But let's also remember, Joe Biden is funding this. We have a waiver in place that Joe Biden has issued twice since October 7th, giving around $10 billion and letting its oil flow to China. We could cut off the money to Tehran tomorrow. Joe Biden doesn't want to do that. He wants to appease the dictators over there in Tehran.
Right. Just for clarification for the American people, we are right now supporting Israel in a war, and we are also supporting the other side in the war. That's how ridiculous this moment is. Christian Whiten, and I mean, I guess you got to laugh at this point because it's such laughable foreign policy, right? Christian Whiten, Richard Goldberg, we appreciate you both. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.